If you're watching this video, it means you, like me, have had a problem with a fridge. This is a GE fridge, which is almost identical to a Samsung fridge. This particular model is the GFSS6KKYCSS. And again, it's very similar to the Samsung. What we're going to be doing is we're removing this area here and getting back into the defrost unit. And I had a repairman come a year ago and replace this, and so now that it's icing up over again and the fan noise is happening and ice is building on this bottom tray because the drain is clogged, I'm going to go ahead and replace a lot. Here's the items I'm going to replace to hopefully fix this for a long time. Because it's such a hassle to open up the fridge and take all the food out and have the family yell at you, I'm going to do this once, which means I'm going to replace all the parts at the same time. This is the first part, which I think is probably the most important. This is the temperature sensor that controls the defrost cycle. This is it right here. And so I'm going to replace that. You can see the part number here. The next one is a extended drain clip. So I'm hearing a lot of news that there's an extended drain clip that actually extends from the hot wire that is melting the ice and goes down into the drain hole and keeps the ice from forming in the drain hole. I think that might be one of the problems as well. So I've gone ahead and ordered that. It's actually a Samsung part, but I believe it will work just fine on my GE. The part number for that is DA6106796A as in apple. The third part I have here is a refrigerator defrost thermostat. That looks like this, and that is also what I'm going to replace as well, just to make sure that that's not causing any issues with the defrost cycle. And you can see the part number here, WR02X12592. And last but not least is the actual heater element itself. You can see the heater element here and where it plugs in. And this part number is WR02X12603. So that is what we're going to replace to try to get this fridge to not build up ice and cause problems. I've let the fridge defrost overnight. We have all of our supplies, which is not making my wife very happy, in coolers, and so we need to do this quickly. So we're going to pop off this piece. There's a screw under here. This screw I think we don't need to worry about. I think number one, it's stripped for me, and number two, I think it's just supporting the shelf. I think it can stay on. And then we have three screws here. This one, and this one here. So I'm going to remove all those to get to this piece. You just gently pry it off like that and just pull it away. There we go. And so again, just taking off this one, this bottom one, and these two. Okay, with the screws off, now the next point is going to be to pry from the bottom up. So now I'm going to put my fingers back under here and start prying it gently out like this. And then as you can see, it's going to come out, and then I'm going to have to deal with bringing the wires out. So holding on to the piece, you're going to see some wires that we're going to have to take off, the yellow wire and some of the other ones, to move this assembly away. All right, I've successfully unclipped the wires. You simply push in on the little holders right here to remove them. And so I'm going to take this door assembly and move it over to the side. So I wanted to show you the root cause of the problem, and this is something that I think is very common to these refrigerators. I think as they age, the defrost doesn't do the job it's supposed to do. You can see where the repair person who tried to repair this fridge before used that wire, right, that copper wire, to go down into the drain plug. The problem is it didn't work, because you can actually see all of the ice building up around the drain plug. So clearly that wasn't the answer. I think that Samsung extended clip that I purchased is going to be the answer. So that's what we're going to try. So next step is I have to remove this ice around the drain hole and clean that out with a turkey baster with hot water to make sure there's no ice or buildup in there. And so that's what I'm going to work on next. All right, so I've cleaned out the hole, and let me show that to you using a turkey baster and hot water. I made sure it was flowing properly, and it is. I can hear it draining straight down into the pan below the refrigerator. So that's all cleaned out now. And the next step is what we're going to do is take off these cable ties. There's several cable ties that I'm very carefully going to cut so that I can get all of this wiring removed away. And then also I'm going to take this wiring off. This you just push in on this little cover and pull it out, and then you can see the 3 wires I'm going to be removing. Blue on the top, white in the middle, and black in the bottom. So they just pull out like this. There's 1, there's 2, just pushing in, there's 3, and they're away. So now I just have to take all the cable clamps off, cable ties. Okay, so I took all of the cable ties off. They're all gone. There was one over here as well. And so next is to actually take the sensor off, and that just pulls off right here. You can see this. There we go. Voila. I'm going to need this piece, this white piece, but this is going to come out. So I'm going to get that out of there. And have to use 2 hands for this. So I'm going to pull this out, and then I'll have the new one that's going to go right here where the old one was. You just have to pull up from the bottom using the 2 yellow wires here to remove the sensor, which just fell. So this is the sensor, which I'm going to go ahead and replace. And this is the sensor holder, which we're going to put back onto the unit. So next up is to remove the next piece. To remove the heater element, what we have to do is pull it down. You can see how it's held in here and over here. And so we're going to be making some room for it to come down by pulling these deflector ears back. And there's also a little holder in here, kind of hard to see, where the heating element is being held in place. This one is probably easier to see here. And so we're going to pull everything down and move it away and pull the heating element out. To get this off of these little holders here, what I had to do is take a pliers and gently pry open the top or the front tab in order to free up the heating element. And what we need to do is put this heating element back in and then close these back up. But for now, to get it out, that's what I had to do. And I also had to open these ears up, as I call them, a little bit to get it out. So now, with a little bit of finesse, I should be able to get the heating element out. So I freed up this side. I got this side out from around the holder, and now I'm just freeing up this side, getting it out and around. A little bit of finesse, try not to break anything here. There we go. It's freed, and now that can come out. When the unit was installed, it was actually installed with this already wired in, which is why the heating element wire is actually going behind the rest of the wires there. And so what I'm going to do is just cut this, cut it, he said, there we go, and remove it, which means that when I put the new one on, and this is the new one, the wire is going to have to go on the outside. So that is a small issue. But for a whole new heating element, I think it's worth it. And the reason for replacing all this is I suspect over time the heating element might lose some of the heat, which perhaps allows some frost to start building up. So I'm just replacing the whole thing at the same time. You don't have to do that, but again, such a hassle listening to the family complaining about not having the fridge that I figured, let's just do this once. To remove the thermostat, it's just easy peasy. You just pull on it and that frees it up from the little holders here. And there's the thermostat. The old thermostat is now out. So with all three parts out, the old parts out, it is now time to replace them. And I'm going to replace them in the reverse order, starting with replacing this thermostat. So here's my new thermostat, and I'm just going to put it back into its position here. Kind of a two-handed situation, but you'll see there's a couple of prongs back in there that these two prongs are going to fit in. So I'm just going to plug it back in there. Let's see if I can maybe do it with one hand. No, I got to put the camera down. Okay, that was a kind of a two-handed job. I had to put the camera down, but you can see where the new thermostat is seated in the prongs in there. And by the way, you want to be careful with these tabs. They are very soft and easy to bend, and we're going to make sure they're all bent proper to their correct place before we close everything up. But you can see that the thermostat is now in its position and happy. So next up is to go ahead and put the new heating element on. So the next step is, as I said, to put the heating element on. I started over on this side. You can see I kind of slipped it around this particular flange right there, and you can see where it's going to be sitting right in here. And so there you can see it there, and it's going to go around that holder, and then it will go around this holder. Whoops. And so right now I'm going to very gently pry it around this area and get it into its seated position over on this side. Two-handed job, so I'm putting the phone down. Okay, so with the heating element back in place, you can see where I've taken my pliers and I've bent the metal back to hold the heating element in its proper position on both sides. You can see it there as well as there. And then you can see it's back into its keeper in here. A little bit difficult to see with the lighting and what with it being black and all, but it's back in there, and it's also over here. This one's a little easier to see. You can see where it is in the proper position there. So with the heating element in place, I can now hang our handy dandy Samsung extended element down into the drain plug. So let's do that. So this is what all the fuss is about. This is the Samsung extended, in essence, heating element, right? It's going to go underneath here. Well, I won't do it right now, but in essence, well, it would help if I didn't drop it. But it's going to go into the hole, which actually, let me get the... So it's going to hang from here, the heating element, down into the hole to keep that hole free and clear of ice. So that's the purpose of this particular item. So we're going to put that on now. All right, so I've taken the Samsung extender. I've just put it into the hole, and then what I'm going to do is just kind of pull out the heating element a little bit and slide this into position. Again, sort of a two-handed job, so I may go ahead and... There we go. Got that. And then these little tabs, you just pull up like this. To put them into position. There's one. I'm just doing it by hand. It's nice soft aluminum, so easy to do. And here is number two. Same deal, just pushing it up into position. Voila. And so there you go. That is, I think, going to help keep the drain plug free and clear of ice. At least that is my understanding of what most of the issues have been around this particular type of Samsung or GE fridge. All right, so I have my new temperature sensor, and you can see this is the new one. And what I've done is I've just gone ahead and just pushed it right back into its little position here. And so now that that's done, I can put the temperature sensor back onto the unit. So let's go ahead and do that right now. Might be a two-handed job. Let's see. No, it's going on pretty easily. So pushing it on, and there you go. So that is the temperature sensor back into its spot. So next up is to wire these, and so you're going to remember that we had the wiring configuration of blue, white, and black. Blue on the top, so blue going up in the top position, and then we do white, if I can get that in there. Kind of difficult holding the camera. And then black. And here's the black sensor wire, and it's going to go into its position. Okay, so blue, white, black, back into the proper position. And now we can start putting our cable ties back on. So that's the next step. Okay, I have all the cable ties in place. There's one here, there's one up here, a couple across here, and one over here, and then one holding all the cables together that go into the harness. I've put this cover plate back on, and it's in position and tight, and so now we're ready to put the outer cover on and connect the wires here. Oh, but one quick tip before we put the cover on, and that is check your fins and make sure that all the fins are nice and straight and even. Sometimes the ice or, you know, us moving around can actually bend these fins. They're very light, thin aluminum, so they're easy to bend back into shape. Make sure they're all not touching each other and nice and straight, and that's going to allow for maximum cooling. So always a good idea to check your fins before you put the cover back on. Okay, so I'm holding the cover, and I've plugged in the yellow wire back where it's supposed to go, and I've also plugged in the bottom wires, and by the way, red and black on the top, so, and then white down below. So that way you'll be putting the plug in the right way. And so now I can put this back into position and screw it in. So that's next. All right, so what I like to do is position this by pushing up hard and in, and then you're going to be pushing in on the sides. There's no clips, but it does snap in. You'll hear it snap as it goes into position. And so it is in position, it is ready for the screws. So again, we're going to be putting the 3 screws in the 3 holes in the bottom and one up here. And then we will be cleaning out. It's a good opportunity to go ahead and clean out the fridge, so get all the gook out of here and clean all the drawers and everything, and then turn the power on, and you shouldn't have any more problems with ice buildup. Okay, so all the screws are back in place. We've got this upper one up here, and we have the lower one down there, and then we have these over here. So that is all ready. All I have to do now is clean the fridge out, give it a good scrubbing, and then plug it in and wait, and we shouldn't have any more problems with ice. So thanks for watching, and remember the parts list. I'll put the parts list in the comments for you. Have a good repair. Good luck. So a quick update on the fridge. This is August. I did the repair back in May, and I started noticing that there was a noise coming from it again. And so the noise was the fan doing the same thing and hitting ice. And so I did 3 things which actually made it repair itself and not and the ice melt. The first thing I did is I noticed that we had some open container of liquid. That's a no-no, because that liquid turns into moisture, which will build into ice. And so it's always a good idea to not store open containers of water. The second thing I did is I checked the actual ice unit itself, and it turned out that the ice unit was actually not in all the way. This was not this was not plugged in all the way, and so because of that I felt like maybe that was a part of the problem. Always check to make sure this tab is flush against the back here and is not open that way. That will help a lot. The third thing I did is I actually came here and I noticed that the energy saver was on. So I turned the energy saver off so that it could use the full amount of power. Doing all those three things actually cured it. The fan noise went away, the defrost cycle worked properly, and we saved having to go out and do another potential repair that was actually a needless repair. So always check those three things before you ever start this repair.